Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conejo Valley Visionaries, a podcast spotlighting the people and stories behind your favorite Conejo Valley small businesses. I'm your host, Christina Denstead. Today, we're talking to Heather Coe of Mix Up Baking. If you're not familiar with Mix Up Baking, it is a vegan, allergen-friendly baking company based here in the Conejo Valley. Heather started Mix Up Baking when she found out that her young son, Lennon, had severe food allergies. She wanted to make sure that he always had some delicious treats that he could eat when he was out at birthday parties. So she started baking her own. Cut to a year later, you can now find Mix Up Baking's incredible vegan treats at places like 507 Coffee and Longevity, and on their website, mixupbaking.com. In our conversation, Heather talks about the scary hospital incident that inspired Mix Up Baking, how she has to pivot and experiment in order to grow and scale the business, as well as what it's like to run a food business from your home. With that, I hope you enjoy this conversation with Heather Coe. Hey, Heather. Welcome to Conejo Valley Visionaries. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Christina. Thanks for having me.
This is so exciting to actually get to talk to you and learn a little bit more about you as a person, but also like share with people how you came up with the business and how everything's going. So let's maybe first take it back, and if you can, share a little bit about, maybe what you studied in school and what you thought you wanted to be when you grew up.
Sure. Yeah. So in school, I went to college later in life because I have an older son, but in school I studied art. And growing up, I wanted to be a singer and a songwriter. I would write songs in my room. Yeah. And singing, I did take a few voice lessons, but we cut that off pretty quickly. It was kind of like a dead end. I don't have the greatest
what age
voice.
Was this? Yeah. Or like, how old were you?
Let's see. Definitely elementary school.
Okay.
Elementary school, I'm trying to think grade wise, maybe third grade. Mm-hmm. I was pretty young, but yeah, I just don't have the greatest voice, but I will do karaoke anytime.
Ooh, good to know. Oh my goodness. But was it just like, did you have a passion for like lyrics or singing, or what kind of?
It was probably more just being famous at that age, I wanted to be famous.
No, that makes sense. And I love like the awareness of that too. Not like about the actual singing, but just like what will get you to fame.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And then you started, so then you went to college for art. What kind of art were you focused on?
It was mixed media art, mainly painting, like acrylic painting, but a lot of mixed media stuff. So, digital, video, some short films and drawing, but I would say mostly painting with acrylic.
So you have like a creative do you find yourself leaning more, it sounds like, to creativity versus
I'm for sure. I'm definitely more of the creative side of the brain than the logical.
What was your first job in that same kind of vein? Were you doing something creative or?
Well, I guess my first paid actual job was babysitting. So I'm not sure if that counts as your first job. I know. I was thinking last night. Right. I was thinking last night, I was like, what was my first job? I was like, I guess it was babysitting, because I would babysit pretty frequently, like neighborhood kids, my mom's work friends and their children. So lots of babysitting. And then and after that, it was fast food. So it was not artistic at all.
But it was food, which, kind of takes you into this. And I'm curious, was food or baking like always a passion? Were you cooking as when you were, as a kid or in college, or when did that kind of start?
Well, I've always loved baked goods. I haven't always cooked them, but I will eat them.
Fair enough.
I've always been, I wouldn't call myself necessarily a foodie, because I feel like that's more explorative and I'm not really into like tasting anything, but I do like to eat. So I would say yeah, lots of baked goods. But as far as baking myself, not like excessively.
Okay. What was is there like a favorite kind of baked good?
Probably cookies, cinnamon rolls, anything that's like warm. I like it warm out of the oven.
Yes,
like where it's like falling apart. I have to like get a fork almost.
When did the idea for the business join? And maybe if you don't mind explaining just quickly, like what Mix Up Baking is.
Sure. Yeah. Mix Up Baking is vegan friendly baked goods and also Lennon friendly. It's more Lennon friendly focused, and then but they are also vegan.
Okay.
And that was
what's the Lennon bake? What does Lennon friendly mean?
Lennon friendly. Lennon is our youngest son. And I know it's like a tongue twister. And he is allergic to milk, eggs, all nuts except for coconut and soy and sesame. So we found that out when he was like around younger than 1, when he had really bad eczema and like just he had to be hospitalized for 2 weeks. And that's when we found out he had all his allergies. And I was vegan at the time, so it wasn't a huge transition or shift because I was already doing no milk and eggs, but also no nuts and soy. Like we kind of had to figure out like what he could eat.
My gosh, that I can only imagine being with a less than 1-year-old and having to deal with that. That must have been quite a challenge. Not necessarily like the restricting of food, but just like having to see your, son in a way that, I don't know if you felt like you had no control. I mean, that's incredible that they were able to figure out what it was so quickly though. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is there was another child that just got out of the hospital about a couple weeks before we were admitted. And he had the same exact symptoms, the same eczema and issues like blood level count, all of it was exactly the same. So we had somebody before us. So they kind of had some groundwork to work with, but it wasn't like a normal case. And I actually met her at one of the hospital visits, which I still keep in touch with her.
That's funny. I mean, that is helpful. At least there was like something to build off. They weren't finding out for the first time with Lennon. So since he's now going to be 5.
Yes. In March.
And so you immediately made those changes to the diet. And did you see quickly that his symptoms were fading, or how long was that process?
No, it was a much longer process because at that age, like 1, he's still not really eating a lot of foods. So introducing was just a slower process, but it was primarily like hypoallergenic formula is what he ate. And then we would slowly introduce other foods like that was okay with him. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot of label checking, even the ones on the bottom that say that has like contains like the allergens. You still have to check because some of the allergens like sesame or soy, mostly soy, isn't in the contains for the allergen label. So it's just like a lot of reading labels, and that was a little tricky, but we figured that out.
I would never think about sesame. That's interesting. So that's something you have to like also have a keen eye on.
Yes. Yeah.
And then did you start baking like early on, or when did the actual business idea come to life?
Well, so for like birthdays and other events, we would make sure Lennon would have something. And usually there's not a ton of like Lennon friendly baked goods out there, even at the store. There's like a handful, but sometimes they're just not as good. And so we started experimenting and creating like our own baked goods that were Lennon friendly. And that's kind of just how it started, through Lennon and taking things that he can actually eat and celebrate with to events. Or like on Christmas, like cinnamon rolls, and they were amazing. They're great. They taste great.
But what a sweet, I don't know. It makes me so happy to hear that it was about just making sure that he could have the same experience as other kids at these events, right? Which I think as a parent who doesn't have a kid with food allergies, sadly, I don't think about that. You know, we want to make sure he's happy, but you were sort of put in that position to ensure he had a good time as well.
Yeah, it's hard because Landon is more like no baked goods that are not Lennon friendly at events. Like he wants it completely Lennon friendly. I'm like, well, let's be realistic. Like he's going to be exposed to things and he needs to know what he can eat. So he knows, he asks if things are Lennon friendly, and he usually knows all of our baked goods are Lennon friendly, but he'll still ask like, is this Lennon friendly? Which is just a good habit.
No, safe than sorry, right?
Yes. No, not all the baked goods from Mix Up. He does not love them all. I'm trying to think of something that, I mean, I think we make them so frequently, and when we have leftovers, we're just like, we just have an abundance of baked goods around here sometimes. That's why you get little packages on your doorstep.
I mean, it sounds like heaven to me, but I guess I can understand. Yes. I can't imagine feeling like there was too many of them. But
I know. So sometimes he'll be like, oh, I don't want that cookie. I'm like, what? You don't want a cookie? You're like, right.
That's going over to Miss Christina's house. Yes. No, so how long has it been since you first like created the idea of Mix Up, and then did you have a business plan going into it?
Well, I guess that for the cinnamon rolls that we first started making,
was that the first time?
Yeah, that was the first thing we started making, is cinnamon rolls and Lennon friendly chocolate cake. And both of those were like just staples. We'd make cinnamon rolls pretty frequently, especially during like holidays and family gatherings. And everyone loves them and says, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I can't believe this is vegan, which is something I hear frequently. And I'm like, I guess that everybody has like a perception that vegan anything tastes disgusting. Yeah. And I'm like, no, it's really good. So sometimes when I have when we bake stuff, I won't tell like my family that it's vegan, and they'll eat it and they'll be like, oh, this is so good. And I'm like, yeah, I know it's also vegan. But we started making the cinnamon rolls, chocolate cake, and since we loved them, everybody else loved them. We're always like, oh, we should sell these to people that, you know, because there's not many options out there. So it was a few years that we were just kind of talking about it. And then I would say, I don't know when we got our business license, but I think it was maybe almost a year ago. It's been a while now. But just one morning we just decided to do it, go for it. I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And just going through the process, the paperwork, getting approved through the health department, through the county, that's a process. So everything's kind of like a process, just things that you have to do to like hurdles in order to start baking for other people.
Yeah, like a food business is not an easy one just to start. So
especially there's like licensed for direct to consumer, and then licensed to businesses, and so like third party also. So once we got all that situated, we did not have a business plan. We're like, let's just start it, sure. And then after
sometimes
that, we're
like the naivete is good, right? The like not knowing what you don't know. Okay.
Exactly. And then after we got the license, we're like, well, what do we do now? What should we do? So then we started doing farmers markets, and I approached a few coffee shops with like sample packs and told them about our business. And from there, there's always been like a lot of interest from coffee shops. Okay. So it hasn't really been a struggle there, to be honest. Every time I give somebody a sample pack, they're really interested, because I think there's just not a market out there for like not just vegan, but like allergy friendly goods. So like the Lennon friendly baked goods, they're just not really available.
Yeah. And they're delicious. I mean, I think that's like whether they're vegan or not, I do think that the taste of your treats, even again, compared to non-vegan items, it's like incredible. The flavor profiles and everything that you guys are making is actually truly delicious too. So I can imagine anybody is like, okay, those taste good.
Thank you. Yeah, the farmers markets were a little more challenging because I think farmers markets are either going there for a specific item or like people, or you're going there to like browse and sample things and spend money on random stuff. That's the way I do farmers markets. I'm like, what can I find here today? But usually people are like, oh, it's vegan. So samples are crucial at farmers markets. That way they can taste their, like, what I guess quote unquote vegan tastes like, or their perception of vegan. And it's hard to know like how much you need to make for farmers markets too, because it's an unknown amount. So that was a struggle too, as far as like what, how much we should make, and not making too much and not making too little. That's actually why we don't do farmers markets as often anymore, because it's just.
Are you still participating?
We'll participate at like events, like at the like I think they like holiday events or 4th of July, something like that. But every Sunday, I don't think that we would do. We are on a wait list for Westlake, and so I think that might be a good area as well for that. So we'll see if we come up on the wait list for that.
Okay. So is the business now focused on mostly wholesale to local businesses? Are you also doing direct to consumer?
We still do direct to consumer, but it's more just kind of like when we're approached, or if someone has interest online. And I think we'll always do direct to consumer, but as far as like shipping product, the cinnamon rolls we were selling, but shipping them became like an issue. We couldn't figure out the shipment, because some people would get them, the frosting would be weird, like on the lid and stuff. And it's all like, these were all like family members that I would ship them to, usually just to practice the shipping. Like, how do they look when you get them? Like, how do they taste? And they're like, oh, they taste amazing, but the frosting's all over the lid. I just scooped it off. So it's like trial and error.
That's a smart thing to test and see. I mean, that's part of the learning, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cause you don't want to start shipping everywhere and then they get it and not be satisfied, or it look not appetizing at all. So yeah, we do mainly local, direct to consumer, or we do ship as well, but it's not as frequent. So our focus right now is more wholesale with coffee shops.
And can you mention any of the coffee shops people can find your goodies in right now?
Yeah. So right now we're in 507 with our cookies. Longevity also is one of our customers, and they order muffins, and Grab a Grain also.
Oh, awesome. Those are great.
So a few places, and then I haven't approached any other coffee shops recently, but I'll probably start doing that in the near future too.
And do you feel, it sounds like you've had great success when you've done these, but did you have any trepidation about going and bringing samples, or do you just go in and like, any tips for anybody who maybe is trying to do something similar and like knocking on people's doors?
I think that's more of a personality thing, because some people might be a little, they might be a little more timid to do that. It didn't bother me at all. I was like, it's free samples and they're delicious baked goods, so like do whatever you want with them. But
if you don't like this, then there's something wrong with you.
And then I guess it's more about the follow-up after, because then they have the samples, but then you have to follow up and see, how did you like them? What are your needs for your business? Like what can we provide you?
Do you think that because you're partnering with these local businesses and have looked at the farmers markets in the areas. Would you say that the Conejo Valley is a good place to start a business?
Yeah, I do think it is, because I think there's a lot of variety around here that people are interested in. Like, they're interested in variety. And a lot of the businesses around here want to support local. So all the ones that I have approached are like, yeah, if you're local, that's perfect. Like, we want to support people around here, like local small businesses. So yeah, I think it's a great place. And then also with, my boys in elementary school, it's like a nice connection there as well. So there's, opportunities pretty much everywhere, but that's a good opportunity as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. But speaking of having kids in elementary school, how are you have you figured out how to balance it all? Or is one of your skill sets really like time management?
Oh, no, it's definitely not. Like, I definitely need some advice for time management. But no, as far as the balancing, it kind of depends on the orders and the frequency of the orders. So it fluctuates. What I am really good at is pivoting. Like, I don't mind change. Like, I can pivot wherever I need to. So the best time is when the boys are at school. But if not, then it's usually like when they're asleep, and I'll be doing it at night, because that way there's definitely a process for baking. And so we have to make sure there's no people in the kitchen.
Right. And you mentioned, because you're cooking out of your own home kitchen, which I think is interesting. So it's a cottage business. Is that right? Or
cottage food license is what it's called. Okay. And so you have to, with the cottage food license, you get all of the recipes for your baked goods approved. So you have to send over every single recipe for anything that you want to bake, and they have to approve it. And they come out and inspect your kitchen and see where everything is, do a few tests, and then there's just a process. So it's kind of common sense, but there's also a few things like where you sanitize everything before with a special sanitizer, and like the temperature of the water. And so that was definitely a learning process for us as well.
I can imagine, because as a home baker, not even a home baker before, now you're like transitioning into kind of industrial food service. I feel like that's quite a jump.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's still like the appliances are all, they're not commercial. Okay. We have thought about putting commercial ovens in our kitchen, but it's a balance. If we did do commercial, if we had a commercial kitchen, in which we did look into renting a space, it just wasn't, it didn't make sense at the time for us. So we wouldn't mind revisiting that at a future date. And that way we can potentially make any sort of recipe we want without it having, without going through the process of getting approved. Which also opens up other recipes with like butter for frosting. Which, speaking of butter, I say that was probably one of the biggest challenges for us was trying to make our own butter, because we went from Country Crock butter to Miyoko's oat butter, but it still had sunflower oil in it, and we were trying to get away from the seed oils. Great. To make it healthier. So now we make our own butter for our cookies.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah. Your own vegan butter.
Yes. No. Yeah. Exactly. And it's primarily coconut oil, a little bit of avocado oil. But it works with it still being Lennon friendly because it's coconut and he's not allergic to coconut.
Are you selling the vegan butter or just using it in your baked goods?
No. Yeah, we're just using it in our cookies for now. Okay. I feel like there are definitely a lot of different paths we can take with this, but I need to revisit it and see kind of where we should go from here. Because once we got into coffee shops, it was more just like focusing on the wholesale baked good products and getting those items fulfilled.
So, I mean, you're still so early. You said maybe just a year in with your business license. So there's a lot of room to grow, which is exciting. But as of now, what are you most proud of with the business?
I guess just starting, honestly. Like we've been talking about it for so long. It's just nice to actually get it going and to start it, and also to have these Lennon friendly baked good products out there for people like Lennon, which is more of a connection at farmers markets than obviously wholesale, because I don't see who's purchasing the product. But at farmers markets, we did interact with quite a few people that had allergies similar to Lennon. So it was nice that they had an option.
And that's, I mean, it's true. I think that there's probably a lot of people out there who had the same experience with their kids or still are doing that and don't feel like they have the option. So it's a great message to get out there that if you have this very restrictive diet, that there are good, delicious, like treats for you to have as well.
Yes, I would say a lot of people are looking for gluten-free also, which is not something we've mastered. So that's definitely one of the challenges, is like trying to figure out if we can get a gluten-free option that tastes good as well. Because I don't prefer gluten-free. No, so I'm like, I don't want it to taste grainy. It's about a flour mixture balance, and we still haven't figured that out yet.
Okay. Do you enjoy the testing process?
I enjoy eating it after it's done to see. But I do like experimenting. But I wouldn't say I'm more of like, I like the finished product of when I can figure it out. So that the experimentation process is more of like work to like just trudge through it, figure it out. And then it's more of like a science. And I'm more of an artist.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Are there things from your, college studies of art and that creativity? Are there things that you use now? Do you feel like in your current business?
And maybe for like, not really. I think if we get into like cakes for birthdays and stuff like that, it will be applied for like decorating cakes. Okay. But we haven't really ventured into that yet.
Well, I was going to ask, what's next for Mix Up Baking? It sounds like maybe birthday cakes.
Yeah.
Doubling down on the wholesale business?
Yeah, I think approaching a few more coffee shops. And then in the summer, we'll have another farmers market for the 4th of July event. And kind of just taking it from there. It's kind of like one day, one customer at a time. I'm like, all right, let's do it. You're like,
that small, steady growth. But I mean, the treats are so delicious. We haven't even really talked about the actual treats, but the chocolate chip cookies, like you said, or for me, they're my favorite of your offering, just because they're that soft, like underbaked kind of cookie that I feel like you don't really get when it's an alternative vegan or, gluten-free kind of thing. And you really guys have like executed on those perfectly.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. They're just other places are not as soft, I feel like. So especially right out of the oven, you usually get them pretty fresh.
Okay, yeah, maybe that might be because of my proximity to the business, but still, I think the texture, even when because I've ordered them for family members or as gifts, and they still, the way that you ship them and the texture is still, is still delicious a couple days later too.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that we did go through quite a few packaging with freshness. So we have sealers and everything now, but at first we didn't have freshness sealers. So it was just definitely a process of learning like what works, what doesn't, like how fresh can you keep them for how long. Those were a lot of test shipments as well that we sent to family, like have a cookie 5 days after, have a cookie 7, like how does it taste? You're like
Okay, well, I have a couple last rapid fire questions. These are pretty easy. But speaking of your menu, which is your favorite menu item that you offer? Or
cinnamon rolls.
Item? Cinnamon rolls, okay.
Yes. Or the mint brownies. Have you ever had the mint brownies?
Those are my second to the chocolate chip cookies. The mint brownies are.
They are really rich though. I can only have only I can have like a bite. I'm like, this is really rich for me.
Well, what is a mint brownie? It's a brownie, and then you've got what's it topped with?
It's like a chocolate ganache, but it's made with like coconut cream.
And it's excellent.
Yeah. That I just scoop. That I can definitely eat. But the whole thing together, I'm like just like a little tiny bite-sized brownie.
Yes. And what makes your cinnamon rolls, why are those your favorite? What do you think makes them special?
Because it is so hard to find Lennon friendly cinnamon rolls. They're like literally not out there. It's impossible. And the ones that I have looked for since we've been doing this online are crazy expensive, and they're just delicious. And we usually eat them fresh and hot out of the oven. And it's Amy's does have a canned cinnamon roll that's Lennon friendly, but it just doesn't taste the same. It's not fresh, but that I think that's definitely one of my favorites. We also usually have it around holidays or gatherings like that. So it could also be the way we're eating it and who we're eating around.
No, but that makes sense. If it's like something that you can't find elsewhere and you're able to create it for your family, that's really special.
Yeah, it is.
What is your favorite thing to do in the Conejo Valley?
Let's see. Well, it's usually with children. So
okay. Yeah.
So I would say concerts in the park during the summer. That's always fun. The library. We frequently visit the Thousand Oaks Library.
Resource.
They usually have a lot of events there too that we've gone to, like a little mini Comic-Con. Yeah, and they do, I guess, all the parks around here too. There's like a million parks, so we always try and go to a different park when we'll frequent the same park sometimes, but I'll be like, oh, let's see if we can find a different park. Like,
nice. The renovated parks, playgrounds at the library are great too. They haven't finished the big kid one.
Oh, yes. Yeah. They finished the smaller one I haven't checked the larger one recently. Yeah. Have you?
I was there like maybe a week or two ago and it wasn't.
Okay. Yeah, we're waiting. I'm like, is it done yet? You're like,
okay. One last question for you. What piece of advice would you give to first-time entrepreneurs? You're, a year into the business, probably going through a lot of learnings. What would you share?
I would say, maybe, I guess, start even before you're ready. Kind of figure things out as you go. A business plan is probably a good idea. Or at least like goals to hit, like kind of a vision. It doesn't necessarily need to be a very strict business plan, because I think pivoting is also essential for any business. And as you learn things as you go, but more of like a vision for your business. And I would say like a vision statement, or something that brings you back to like the base of your business and what it's all about.
Do you guys have one at Mix Up Baking?
We do. It's obviously Lennon friendly, and just putting customers first. So not selling our cinnamon rolls for $10 a cinnamon roll because other people do, making it more like affordable for everybody.
I love it. What a great way to end. And thank you, Heather. I'm so, as a friend, watching you build this thing is really awesome. And to be a part of the tasting has been incredible. And I'm so excited for more people to get their hands on your treats, because they truly are so delicious and are great for anybody who has allergens or just like something a great baked good like you did as a kid. still. So I think that they're really for everybody, but also really for people who have special considerations in their diet. So congrats to you guys.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm so excited for you and this new start.
Yes. Well, inspired by you just starting, I did the same. So,
thank you for all of your support too with Mix Up. You are definitely one of our core supporters. And I love that you come to us for gift boxes and baked goods needs, and we appreciate that.
I'm so happy to do it. So, well, thank you, Heather, and we will talk soon. That was Heather Coe of Mix Up Baking in Thousand Oaks. To enter to win a dozen of Mix Up Baking's famous vegan and allergen-free cookies, all you have to do is go and at Mix Up Baking on Instagram, and then comment with your favorite part of this episode on at Conejo Valley Visionaries on Instagram. To score an extra entry into the giveaway, just screenshot this episode and share it on your stories, tagging at Mix Up Baking and at Conejo Valley Visionaries. Make sure to subscribe to Conejo Valley Visionaries wherever you listen to podcasts so that you never miss an episode. And follow us at Conejo Valley Visionaries on Instagram to learn more about each guest and enter our weekly giveaways. If you want to share your visionary story on the podcast, send us a DM. We are always open to guest nominations. This episode was produced by Christina Denstead and Justin K. Sloan. Conejo Valley Visionaries is edited by Justin K. Sloan and J. Sloan Productions.